Okay, welcome to Daily 3D Revolve. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial in Corel Draw version 2018. I'm going to be going over some of the basics, how to get started with the program. Come up here to File, New. In the New category box, you have you can change all this to custom stuff. You can change your size, your paper size, letter. It's got tabloid, half letter, business card, envelopes. So whatever you're designing, you normally go with the letter 8.5 by 11. You can change your primary color from CMYK to RGB, and then you could change your rendering resolution. If you wanted to do something that needed to be 300 dpi, you could enter it right there. So we'll just keep this at 100 dpi for now. So this is basically your 8.5 by 11 page. This is your ruler up here. You want to change stuff, you just double click on the ruler. You can change the units from inches, millimeters. You could do points, you could do feet, yards, miles, centimeters, meters, kilometers, pretty much anything that you'd want to do. Now you have your rulers up here. If you want to draw something, you could draw that like a square. You could specify the size you want it to be, 3 by 3. Hit enter, got a 3 by 3. P puts it right in the center of your page, P on the keyboard. Now if you want to change the 0, 0 from over here, this is normally where the 0, 0 is in Corel Draw. You can click and drag. You get these two little lines here. Now your 0, 0 is here. And that's important because if you wanted to put something in the middle of this square, you could put a guide out here and you would know. So you put a guide at 1.5, and then you put another guide at 1.5. So now you know where your center is from here. This is 0 and this is 0. This is 1.5. That's the center right there. So that's how to change your 0, 0 from up here on the left down to an object. That's pretty important to be able to do that. Okay, then you have some of your tools here. This is a magnifying glass. This actually zooms in. Control minus will zoom back out. Or you can, click off of that. And then you have your drawing tools. You have a 2-point line, you have a Bezier curve line, you have a pen tool. And the Bezier line is for drawing. Click, you curve, click and drag. It's for drawing these curved shapes. And then you close it up. And now you can fill that shape up with a color over here on your color palette, as long as it's closed. That's the Bezier curve right there. Your pen tool is similar. It draws same thing there. You click and drag. Same thing, only it's done with a pen. Do the same thing there. You could save your pen paths and load them up later, just like Illustrator. So you have the pen tool, you have a polyline, a smart drawing. You have some of these features here, which basically is just a pen. You have different shapes up here. Those are those. And then you have your different shapes here. You have a rectangle. Then you have your 3-point rectangle, which is nice. You just specify 2 points and then you pull out to draw the 3rd point. So you would go 1 point there to 1 point there to 3 points here. So 1, 2, 3. Got yourself a square. Got your oval. Same thing with the oval or ellipse. You have an ellipse tool, and then you have underneath, you have the 3-point ellipse. It's 1, 2, 3. Undo, undo. Now you have the same thing with the polygon. You have these different shapes. You have a polygon, which draws three-sided, and then you can change up here in this little window, toggle through the different 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Go ahead and draw a 12-sided figure if you wanted to. This is a star. That draws a star. Number of points, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same kind of thing. You have the complex star. More points. And then underneath that, got this impact. Draws kind of a sunburst. Little sunburst pattern. Then underneath that, spiral, draws a spiral. And then underneath that, there's this. Then you have basic shapes. Under the spiral, you have an arrow. This will draw. This is good for a presentation. You need to draw arrows. That tool is pretty handy. Then underneath that, let's see, we're up here. You have arrow. You have a flow chart shapes. Banners. This is pretty handy. This will draw a banner for you. Albeit it's pretty basic. You could do a flyer with that. Call out shapes. This is handy. You know, you want to do a call out to something. This will point to it, and then you put your text in here. Alright, so that's there. That's underneath. Call out. Oh, call out is there. Yep, so that's all of those. And then the text, you basically have a regular text for putting in, you know, logos and stuff. And then you have underneath that, you have another option, which is called a table. You click and drag. That'll put a table in there for you. You can put text in the different tables. Okay, that's handy to have if you're doing graphs and stuff. Okay, let's see what else is under there. Okay, so this is parallel line dimensions. This is all dimensioning tools. So basically, if you have shape, let's draw. Actually, let's go change that back to the regular rectangle. If you had a drawing that you needed to put dimensions on, this is where you would do it. So you would basically do parallel dimensions. You would click here, drag over to there, and then drag up, and then position where you want to put the dimension. Now you have a dimension in there. 3. So those are all right there. So you have your parallel dimension, you have a horizontal dimension, you have an angular dimension, and then you have a 3-point call out, and then you have a segment dimension. All of those are just for putting dimensions on things. Like if you wanted to do that side, you would do the horizontal dimension. You'd click there, drag down to there, and then position it where you wanted it to be. That was a little off. Let's do that again. Okay, that should say 3, 2. Since it's a 3 by 3 cube. So this is how you do dimensions in Corel Draw. Okay, let's undo that. Okay, let's go to the next. Those are the arrows. Okay, that's a straight arrow connector. So if you had an arrow, you can connect this is used to kind of connect the stuff together, arrows and points and things. This right here is drop shadow. Let's go actually. Let's do an ellipse just to give you an idea. So if you had a color in there, like say black, and you wanted to add a drop shadow, come over there, click and drag, and then you got your drop shadow. And there you can do this with text as well. Let's get rid of that. So that's the drop shadow feature. You have the contour, which is really handy. Like if you wanted to contour this or offset, you would just come over here to the contour. You click that and then you drag, it offsets it. You can do that again. You can come in, make it smaller. So that's basically giving you an offset. So you can do that. And then this blend, interesting. Got a square, you have a circle. You can basically select both of these, go to your blend tool, and you can blend it from here to here. So what it's going to do is it's going to change shapes till it gets to over to here. So this starts off as an oval and then it becomes a square. So that's your blend feature. And then you have distort. That's pretty handy. You could take a square, go ahead and click on your distort, and then you can distort it. Anywhere you click and drag, you can distort it into a different shape. Sometimes that's handy. You have envelope, which is basically my favorite feature in Corel Draw. Go ahead and click on envelope. You can basically click and drag up. If you hold down the, is it the shift key or the alt key? Okay, so basically you can distort, edit envelope, distort these shapes here just by pulling on them. And then you have a separate tab over here under envelope that lets you do more things with it. Okay, that's the edit envelope. Extrude is just extrude. You click on something, extrude it. You can add some color to it. And you have a little three-dimensional box. Okay, that's extrude. I don't really use that black shadow one. Let's go on to the next. Don't use that one either. This is your dropper tool, the eyedropper tool. Like if you had copy paste, let's move this over here. Like if you had blue there and you wanted to copy the properties from there, you could go click them over there, put them over to here. Sometimes handy to be able to do that. And then you have your basically your paint, your interactive fills. Don't do too much with that. Here you have your nudge offset up here. This lets you move things incrementally, which is really handy. Like you could change that to 0.25, and then if you knew every time you drew one of these boxes you had to move it over 0.25, you could do that. So you could copy that, paste, the arrow goes over 0.25. If you made that more, if you made it 1.25, then you could basically copy that, paste, move it over, copy, paste, move it over, copy, paste, move it over. So this is nudge offset. This is the nudge offset, and if you put your little mouse up to there, it says nudge distance. So every time you change that, it's going to move something down to whatever you put in there. So if you selected all of those and said Control C, Control V, and then you hit the nudge, it's going to move it down 1.25 inches. So copy, paste, nudge. So now you have these in precise placement. Very, very handy feature to have. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. So that's some of the stuff up here. This takes you from portrait to landscape. And this goes back to landscape. That's portrait. This is your size right here. If you wanted to change sizes, you could say 18, or you could say 24, tab 18. Now you have a much bigger, oh, that was 124. Sorry about that. 24 by 18. You have a bigger canvas to work with. Let's see here. So we went over, you can change all your measurements here quickly. If you just come over to units, you could say inches, you could go to millimeters, and then you could go back to inches. This is your nudge offset, and this is okay, so that's that. Let's go, we went over most of the tools. Let's go over some of the more interesting things. You have your views, you have wireframe. Wireframe is handy if you're working and you want to see the lines. So normally, you know, we see a color here, but if we wanted to see this as a line, we could come up here and view as wireframe. And sometimes that's handy to do, because sometimes you could have traced something and you could have little bits of pieces of it that you don't know are there. And once you go to view wireframe, you'll be able to see them. And then you can view normal, which is this, and then there's even a view enhanced, which makes it look a little bit nicer. You got power clip option, which is really nice. You could basically take a shape, and then you could take a photo and you could power clip it inside of that shape. Let me show you what I mean. Let me go ahead and grab a picture. Let's go get some images. Let's grab this one. Okay, so basically, if we wanted to, let me type the word Hawaii. So we'll go ahead and get our text tool. All right, let's go ahead and scale that up. So if you wanted to pick a font, you could say Hawaii, and you could pick a really thick font like Arial Black, and you could just make this big, and then hang on a second, let me make sure that's spelled correctly. Looks a little funky. Hawaii. Okay, got it correct. So anyhow, what I was getting at is you come up here to objects and you can convert that to curves. So now it's a curve. So now you can go basically fill this with none and put a black outline on it. So now you have that shape there. So now you can go ahead and import your surf picture. Go to desktop. Let's import that. This is kind of a bad example. This is small. So, okay, well, we'll make it small. So what you could do is if you wanted to power clip that picture inside of that H, just the H, you basically, well, what? Okay, you gotta break that apart. So you'd have to come up here to objects, break apart. Okay, now you'd have to click on this piece and this piece together. You come up here to objects. Let's see where my power clip is. Effects. Where did my power clip go? Down there, join shaping. Power clip. Okay, it's right up here under objects. So you just say place inside a frame. Wait a minute. The object you selected is invalid. Okay, let's go. No. Alright, so let's click on it. Go to objects. Go to power clip. Place inside a container. Power clip. Place inside a container. And there you go. Now you have your surfer picture inside of here. And if you want to edit it, you just say edit contents, and it lets you move it around. So if you wanted that little surfer to be over there more, you could go edit contents, and then you see when you move it, you can see that little preview that you're getting. So now you have, and now if you size that up, the picture gets bigger. So you could do that. That's the use of a power clip. That's pretty handy. You can trim and weld with Corel Draw. If we had a shape over here, we needed to weld it to here. You just click it, weld, weld. If you wanted to cut a shape out of there, you go ahead and get your Bezier. Create a line there from midpoint to midpoint. Give this line some thickness, maybe like a 20 point. Let's go bigger. Let's go 24 point. And you can come up here. You can convert outline to object. Then you can go to view by wireframe. Now you can scale that up a little bit, and then you can trim it. So you come over here, grab the trim. You say trim from here. Now you have a cut out of your piece, a line that you didn't want there. So now you go back to view, view normal. Let's put a color in there. So now you have your trimmed out piece. There's a lot of stuff you can do with your trim and weld. You can pretty much trim and weld any shape together. That's a pretty handy feature. Just trying to find a few more things I can do, and then I'll put an end to the tutorial. Align and distribute is pretty handy if you have a series of shapes. And you had them all scattered around. You could select them all. You could come up here to objects. You could say align and distribute. You could line and distribute them on the right. They all go to the right. You could do this, align and distribute. You could say to center a page. Everything goes to the center of the page. Align and distribute. You could do bottom. They all go to the bottom. And that's sometimes handy because if you really needed them all to be on the bottom and they weren't, like this, you could just select them all, come up to objects, say align and distribute, align them to the bottom. Now if you put a guide down there, they're all on the bottom. And you can do the same thing if you need them to be aligned to the top. You could say align and distribute them to the top. And then you could do shortcut keys. B on the keypad, T, top, bottom. Pretty handy. I mean, if you wanted to put that down there and all of the stuff was on the top, you could say B, give it a color. Now all your stuff's aligned on the bottom. That's a good feature. That's the align and distribute. You have fit objects to path. That's another handy one if you're drawing. If you want to do a circle, you could say draw that circle there. You could say surf more often. You could blow that up. Get both of those, select both of those, go to object, and then you could say fit text to path. Then you get a little window up here. I think actually I just have to go objects. I don't think that was the one. That wasn't the right one. This is text. Here it is. Fit text to path. I got the wrong one. So basically this is how you would do it, and then you would adjust it up here. And then you could get your node edit tool or your shaping tool. And then you can drag in more spacing. I'll put more spacing in there for you. It stays connected until you break them apart. Then you come over here and you say yeah, you'd have to ungroup these. So Control U, I believe, is ungroup. No, you'd have to actually break these apart. So you'd have to come up here and convert to curves. Now you have separate pieces. Did undo a few times. That's pretty handy. Let's see what else. So you have a barcode generator in this. It's really, really handy. Let's see the effects, bitmap, tools. You can auto trace stuff. Super handy. Let me show you the auto trace real quick. We'll do a heart for Valentine's Day. I need a black and white one. Stuff is best traced when it's black and white, but you can also do stuff. Let's right mouse click, save this as desktop. It helps if it's black and white, but it'll also trace anything that's color. So you want to import these little hearts. If we right mouse click on these, there's a thing called outline trace. We go to detail logo. It's going to trace all of these. It's going to make them a vector. So now they're actually made up of mathematical lines instead of a rastered image. So that's the rastered image. This is our vector lines. So this is a vector graphic now. So it means, what that means is it's not a raster. It's not made up of dots and pixels. It's made up of mathematical calculations. So basically, you would be able to size this as large as you wanted to size it, and it's not going to pixelate because it's made up of, you know, curves and nodes. So that's the auto trace. It's not a bad little feature, the auto trace. Use that quite a bit. I think that's probably it for now. I think I don't want to do overkill on this video. I just wanted you guys to get the basics of Corel Draw. It's a pretty powerful tool. I've been using this for many years. I've done a lot of good stuff with it. Okay, that's going to end today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed watching and you got something useful tips and tricks for Corel Draw 2018. Okay, thanks for watching.